My name is Kevin Martinez. I'm 26 years old, and up until October 2020, I was a delivery driver for Quick Ship Logistics, one of those third-party companies that contracts with Amazon and other retailers to handle overflow during peak seasons. The pay was decent, the work was straightforward, and I got to listen to podcasts all day while driving. It was a good gig. I specifically requested the night shift. I've always been a night owl, and the night routes paid an extra $3 an hour. Plus, there was less traffic, fewer people to deal with, and a kind of peaceful solitude to driving through empty streets while the rest of the world slept. My route covered the rural areas outside of Eugene, Oregon farms, isolated houses, small communities scattered along back roads. During the day, it was beautiful. Rolling hills, green forests, that classic Oregon landscape. At night, it was just darkness and the tunnel of my headlights on winding roads. I'd been running that route for 8 months when things started getting weird. It began on October 12, 2020. I remember the date because it was a Monday, and Mondays always had the heaviest package loads. I'd started my shift at 8 p.m., and by 11 p.m., I was deep into the rural section of my route, a stretch of road called Hawthorne Lane that ran through farmland and forest for about 15 miles. I was looking for address 4758, which, according to my GPS, was a house at the end of a long gravel driveway, the kind of place where you have to drive half a mile just to reach the front door. I found the mailbox rusted metal with faded numbers and turned onto the driveway. The gravel crunched under my tires as I drove through dense trees that blocked out the moonlight. My headlights were the only source of light, and they created this tunnel effect that always made me feel slightly claustrophobic. The house appeared after about a quarter mile. It was a 2-story farmhouse, probably built in the 60s or 70s, with peeling white paint and a sagging porch. All the lights were off. Not unusual. Most people were asleep by 11 p.m. I grabbed the package, some kind of electronics order, medium-sized box, and walked up to the porch. The wood creaked under my feet. I set the package down by the door, took the photo for proof of delivery, and turned to leave. That's when I heard it, knocking, coming from inside the house. I stopped and listened. The knocking was rhythmic, deliberate. It was coming from upstairs, from what looked like a bedroom window on the second floor. Maybe someone was trying to get my attention? Maybe they wanted to thank me or ask me to put the package somewhere specific. I looked up at the window. It was dark, but I could see a shape behind the glass. A person standing there, watching me. They knocked again. 3 times. I waved awkwardly. "Package is by the door." I called up. The figure didn't move, just stood there, knocking. A cold feeling crept up my spine. Something about this felt wrong. The way they were just standing there, the mechanical rhythm of the knocking, the complete darkness of the house. I walked quickly back to my van, got in, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could see the figure still standing at the window, still knocking. I told myself it was just some eccentric person. Maybe they were deaf and trying to communicate. Maybe it was a kid playing around. Whatever it wasn't my problem. I had 40 more deliveries to make. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been very wrong about that house. The next night, October 13th, I had a delivery to 4761 Hawthorne Lane. Different house, different address, but the same road. This one was a small cabin set back from the road, surrounded by tall pine trees. I pulled into the driveway around 10:30 p.m. and grabbed the package, a large envelope, probably documents or something flat. I walked up to the door and immediately noticed something strange. There were scratch marks on the door, deep gouges in the wood like someone had clawed at it. Fresh, too. I could see the pale wood underneath. I hesitated. Every instinct told me to just leave the package and go, but curiosity got the better of me. I leaned closer to examine the marks. That's when I heard the knocking. It was coming from inside the cabin. My blood went cold. It was the same pattern, the exact same rhythm as the house from the night before. I looked at the windows, all dark. But in one of them, I could see a shape, a silhouette, standing there, watching me, knocking. I dropped the package on the porch and ran back to my van. My hands were shaking as I started the engine and backed out of the driveway way too fast, nearly hitting a tree. In my mirror, I could see the figure at the window, still knocking. This wasn't a coincidence. 2 houses, 2 nights in a row, same pattern. What the hell was going on? I should have reported it, should have called my supervisor or the police or someone. But what would I say? There were people knocking on their windows at me? They'd think I was crazy. So I kept quiet and went back to work on October 14th. I had 3 deliveries on Hawthorne Lane that night. The first 2 were normal. Left packages, took photos, no issues. But the third one, address 4790, made my stomach drop when I saw it on my manifest. I knew somehow that it would happen again. The house was a ranch-style home with a large yard and a detached garage. I pulled up at 11:05 p.m., and before I even got out of the van, I could see it, a figure in the window, standing there, waiting. I sat in my van for a full minute, trying to decide what to do. I could skip the delivery, mark it as inaccessible, come back during the day. But I needed this job. I couldn't afford to mess up my delivery rate. I grabbed the package and walked to the door, keeping my eyes on the ground, trying not to look at the window, but I could hear it starting. I set the package down, took the photo as fast as I could, and turned to leave. The knocking stopped. I looked up at the window. The figure was gone. Relief washed over me. Maybe they'd just walked away. Maybe. The front door opened behind me. I spun around. There was someone standing in the doorway, a woman, maybe 40, wearing a nightgown, but something was wrong with her. Her face was expressionless, blank. Her eyes were open but unfocused, like she was sleepwalking. "Hello," I said nervously. She didn't respond, just stood there, staring through me. Then she raised her hand and knocked on the doorframe. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need me to call someone?" She knocked again. Same pattern. Her face never changed expression. I backed away slowly. "I'm going to call for help, okay?" I got back to my van and called 911. Told them there was a woman at this address who seemed to be in some kind of medical distress, possibly sleepwalking or having a stroke. The dispatcher said they'd send someone and asked me to stay until the police arrived. I waited in my van, watching the house. The woman stood in the doorway for another minute, then turned and walked back inside, closing the door behind her. The police showed up 20 minutes later. I explained what I'd seen. They knocked on the door. No answer. They knocked again, louder. Called out that they were the police. Nothing. One of the officers tried the door. It was unlocked. They went inside. I waited, watching the windows, half expecting to see that figure appear again. The officers came out 5 minutes later. "There's nobody home," one of them said. "What? But I saw her. She opened the door. She was standing right there." House is empty. Looks like it's been empty for a while. Furniture covered in sheets, utilities turned off. "You sure you have the right address?" I showed them my delivery app, 4790 Hawthorne Lane. This house. They exchanged a look. "Son, have you been drinking tonight?" "No." I swear, there was a woman. She was knocking. "We'll check around back. Make sure there's no one hiding. But this house is clearly vacant. Maybe you saw a reflection or something. They did a full sweep of the property and found nothing. No woman. No signs of recent occupation. Nothing. I left, but I knew what I'd seen. That woman had been real. She'd opened the door. She'd knocked 3 times. Pause. 3 times. I called in sick on October 15th. Told my supervisor I had food poisoning. Spent the day trying to convince myself I was imagining things, that stress or lack of sleep was making me see things that weren't there. But I couldn't explain the pattern. 3 different houses, 3 different nights, the same knocking, the same figure in the window. I went online and started searching in Oregon. Strange occurrence, haunted houses. I found a local news article from 2003. Family of 4 found dead in murder. Suicide on Hawthorne Lane. I read the article with growing dread. A man named Robert Marsh had killed his wife and 2 children before taking his own life in their home at 4758 Hawthorne Lane. The first house. The one where I'd first heard the knocking. According to the article, neighbors had reported hearing strange sounds from the house for 3 days before police did a wellness check. When they entered, they found the bodies. The article mentioned that the youngest child, a 7-year-old girl, had been found in her bedroom. She'd been trying to signal for help by knocking on her window. The police estimated she'd survived for almost 2 days after the initial attack, trapped in her room, knocking for help that never came. I felt sick. I kept searching and found more. Hawthorne Lane had a history, multiple deaths, multiple tragedies, a murder in 1987, a suicide in 1995, a missing person case in 2001, a woman who vanished from her home on Hawthorne Lane and was never found. And according to local forums and paranormal websites, people had been reporting strange occurrences on that road for decades. Figures in windows, unexplained knocking, a sense of being watched. Delivery drivers, postal workers, police officers, all reporting the same things. I was supposed to work that night. I thought about calling in sick again, but I'd already used my sick day. If I called in twice in a row, I'd need a doctor's note. So I went to work, and I prayed I wouldn't have any deliveries on Hawthorne Lane. I had 4. The first 3 went fine. I left the packages, didn't look at the windows, got in and out as fast as possible. The 4th delivery was to 4758. The Marsh House. The house where it all started. I sat in my van outside the driveway, staring at the address on my scanner. I could refuse the delivery. I could mark it as unsafe and move on. But something made me turn onto that gravel driveway. Some morbid curiosity. Some need to understand. I drove slowly through the trees, my headlights cutting through the darkness. The house appeared exactly as I remembered it. Dark, abandoned looking, lifeless. I got out with the package and walked to the porch. My footsteps seemed too loud in the silence. I set the package down and took the photo. No knocking, no figure in the window, nothing. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever had been happening had stopped. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw them. There were figures standing at the edge of the tree line. 3 of them, adults, 2 children. They were just standing there, perfectly still, watching me. I couldn't make out their faces in the darkness, but I could see their shapes. A man, a woman, 2 small forms that had to be children. The Marsh family. One of them, the smallest one, the little girl, raised her hand and knocked on a tree trunk. Then they all started doing it, all 5 of them, knocking on trees, on each other, on the air itself. The sound echoed through the forest, surrounding me, coming from every direction. I ran, dropped my scanner, dropped everything, and sprinted to my van. started the engine, and floored it in reverse, not caring if I hit anything, just needing to get away. The figures didn't move. They just stood there at the edge of the trees, knocking. I made it back to the main road and kept driving, didn't stop until I was back in Eugene, parked under streetlights with other people around. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called my supervisor and quit. Right there. Told him I was done, I wasn't finishing the route, I was never going back. He threatened me. Told me I'd be in breach of contract, that I'd be blacklisted from delivery work, that he'd sue. I didn't care. I hung up and drove home. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't been back to Hawthorne Lane. I haven't delivered a single package since that night. My girlfriend thinks I'm being dramatic. My parents think I'm throwing away a good job for no reason. Maybe they're right. Maybe I did imagine it all. Maybe it was stress or carbon monoxide or some kind of shared delusion. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And I know that there are some places where the dead don't rest. Some roads where tragedy has soaked so deep into the ground that it can't be washed away. Hawthorne Lane is one of those places. I looked up the delivery records after I quit. I wanted to know if anyone else had experienced what I had. There have been 7 delivery drivers assigned to that route in the past 10 years. I was the 7th. The first one quit after 2 months. No explanation given. The second one lasted 3 weeks. Quit claiming unsafe working conditions. The third one made it 6 months before requesting a transfer to a different route. The fourth one disappeared. Just didn't show up for work one day. His van was found abandoned on Hawthorne Lane. He's never been found. The fifth one was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown after 4 months on the route. The sixth one quit after 2 weeks. And then there was me. I tried to warn the guy who took over my route. Found him on social media and sent him a message. Told him to be careful on Hawthorne Lane, to watch out for the houses, to not engage with anyone who knocks. He never responded. Probably thought I was crazy. Last week, I saw a news article. A delivery driver had been found dead in his van on a rural road outside Eugene. Heart attack, they said. He was only 32 years old, no history of heart problems. The road was Hawthorne Lane. I don't know if it was the guy who took my route. I don't want to know. All I know is that I'm never going back there. And if you're a delivery driver, a postal worker, anyone who has to travel rural roads at night, pay attention to the patterns. Pay attention to the signs. If you see someone knocking in a window, don't investigate. Don't engage. Just leave. Some people are trying to warn you. Some people are trying to lure you in. And on Hawthorne Lane, you won't know which is which until it's too late. I got a package yesterday, a delivery to my apartment. I didn't order anything. When I opened the door to get it, there was nothing there. But on my neighbor's door across the hall, I could hear something. I'm moving next week, somewhere far from Oregon. Somewhere where I've never been. Somewhere where, hopefully, it can't find me. But late at night, when I'm trying to sleep, I hear it. 3 knocks on my bedroom wall. It's getting louder.